The observation pod hummed with its usual mechanical rhythm as I settled into my monitoring station. 3 cycles of deep space reconnaissance, and this assignment had been the dullest yet. Watching a human settlement on their homeworld? Please. I had requested something exciting, like tracking the carnivorous methane breathers of Torva 9, but instead, the Galactic Council stuck me here. Earth. What a joke. My name is Vekrin, and I serve as a xenobiological observer for the Council's research division. My job? Document unusual behavior patterns in developing species. The humans had recently been classified as pre-contact curious, which meant we watched them without interfering. Standard protocol. Boring protocol. I adjusted the scanner array, focusing on settlement grid 447B. Rural area. Scattered dwellings. Lots of vegetation. The humans called this region Montana, though I had no idea what that word meant, and frankly, I did not care enough to look it up. Then something pinged on my scanner. Biological signatures. Multiple. Moving in coordinated patterns. I leaned forward, my 3 eyes narrowing at the display. This was unusual. The signatures belonged to Terran predators. Classification, Ursus arctos horribilis. Grizzly bears, the humans called them. Large omnivores, aggressive, territorial, and there were 4 of them, moving together. That alone was strange. These creatures typically traveled solo, except during mating season, which had passed 2 full lunar cycles ago. "Computer, track the quadrant," I commanded. "Show me what they're hunting." The display shifted, thermal imaging painting the forest in blues and reds. The 4 bears moved with purpose, their massive bodies pushing through the underbrush. Then I saw it, a small heat signature, tiny, fragile, a human child. "Oh, wonderful," I muttered, reaching for my documentation tablet. "Just wonderful. I get to watch nature take its brutal course today." The child appeared to be female, approximately 6 or 7 solar cycles old by human standards. She had wandered far from the nearest dwelling, easily 2 kilometers through dense forest. She wore bright red clothing, completely impractical for camouflage, and carried what looked like a primitive basket. Stupid. Absolutely stupid. Human parents on this planet had the survival instincts of vacuum algae. The bears had caught her scent. I could tell by the way their heads lifted, nostrils flaring. The largest one, a female probably weighing 300 kilograms, moved to the front of the group. The others fanned out, classic pack hunting behavior, though bears were not supposed to hunt in packs. I should have felt something. Concern, maybe. Sadness. But after 3 cycles of watching species consume each other across the galaxy, you develop a certain numbness. The universe was not kind. The strong survived. The weak became meals. Circle of life, or whatever poetic nonsense the philosophers spouted. The child had stopped walking. She was picking something, small flowering plants the humans called wildflowers, completely oblivious to the 4 apex predators closing in from multiple directions. The bears were 60 meters away now, 50, 40. I prepared to log the incident in my report. Time Index 4472, juvenile human subject about to be terminated by local megafauna, cause of death, parental negligence and complete lack of spatial awareness. 30 meters. The child started humming. Actually humming, like this was a pleasant afternoon stroll. 20 meters. I noticed something else then. Another heat signature, small but distinct, moving near the child. Ground level, fast. "Computer, identify secondary organism." The display focused, and I felt my respiratory tubes constrict. Mellivora capensis, a honey badger. "You have got to be kidding me," I said aloud to my empty pod. Honey badgers. The most insane creatures in the entire Terran ecosystem. I had read the reports during my initial briefing. Fearless to the point of psychosis. Aggressive beyond any reasonable biological imperative. They attacked creatures 50 times their size just for looking at them wrong. The Council's xenobiologists had flagged them as disproportionately dangerous relative to mass, and one was sitting right next to the human child. The girl reached down and patted its head like it was some kind of domestic companion animal. The honey badger, instead of removing her hand at the wrist, just sat there, accepting the contact. What the hell? The bears were 15 meters away now, close enough that I could see the saliva dripping from the lead female's jaws. She rose on her hind legs, easily 2.5 meters tall, and released a roar that my audio sensors barely contained. The human child looked up. Finally, I thought. Finally, some survival instinct. But she did not run. She did not scream. She just stared at the massive predator with those big human eyes and said something I could not quite make out. My translator caught fragments. Big doggies. Doggies. She thought they were doggies. The lead bear dropped to all fours and charged. The other three followed immediately after, a coordinated assault. I had seen this hunting pattern before in recordings. They would surround the prey, then attack from multiple angles. Quick, efficient, brutal. The honey badger moved. I have witnessed combat across 40 different worlds. I have seen things that would shatter the sanity of lesser species. But I had never, in all my cycles of observation, seen anything move the way that honey badger moved. It was like watching compressed violence explode into physical form. The small creature, barely 8 kilograms of fur and teeth, launched itself directly at the charging grizzly bear. Not away, not to the side, directly at it. The bear outweighed it by roughly 40-1. The honey badger did not care. It hit the bear's face like a missile, claws extended, teeth bared. The bear's charge stopped, instantly. Just stopped. The massive predator reared back, shaking its head violently, trying to dislodge the absolute maniac attached to its snout. The other 3 bears paused, clearly confused. This was not how prey was supposed to behave. The honey badger released its grip, dropped to the ground, spun 180 degrees, and lunged at the nearest bear. This one tried to swat it away with a paw the size of a dinner plate. The badger dodged, impossibly fast, and sank its teeth into the bear's foreleg. The bear roared. Actually roared in pain. From something that weighed 8 kilograms. "This is not possible," I muttered, frantically adjusting my sensors. The mass differential alone should make this a non-event. The third bear tried to circle around, clearly attempting to reach the human child while the badger was occupied. Smart strategy. Divide the defender's attention. The honey badger saw it. I do not know how it saw it. The badger was actively mauling bear number 2 while simultaneously avoiding strikes from bear number 1. But somehow, it detected the flanking maneuver, disengaged from both opponents, and intercepted bear number 3 in mid-stride. The collision produced a sound like a small explosive detonation. Bear number 3 stumbled sideways, bleeding from new facial wounds. The honey badger landed, rolled, came up running, and immediately attacked bear number 4, who had been waiting for an opening. 4 apex predators. 4. And they were losing. "Computer," I said slowly, "run a diagnostic on the sensor array. I need to verify these readings are accurate." The computer beeped. All systems functioning within normal parameters. Of course they were. The lead bear, the large female, had regrouped. She charged again, this time with more caution, trying to use her mass advantage. The honey badger waited until the last possible moment, then darted between the bear's legs. As it passed underneath, it raked its claws across the bear's underbelly. Not deep enough to be fatal, just deep enough to hurt, to enrage, to destabilize. The bear spun, snapping at empty air. The badger was already on her back, climbing, digging claws into thick fur and skin, heading straight for the back of the neck. The bear went into a frenzy, spinning, thrashing, trying desperately to remove the attacker. The other 3 bears watched, and I swear I could read the expression on their faces. Fear. They were afraid. Of an 8-kilogram ball of rage. The honey badger released its grip and dropped away as the lead bear slammed her own back into a tree, trying to crush whatever was on her. The impact shook the tree hard enough to drop branches. The badger hit the ground, shook itself once, and immediately went back on the offensive. The bears had had enough. The lead female made a sound, low and rumbling, a retreat signal. The 4 predators, bleeding and battered, turned and fled into the forest. The honey badger chased them for approximately 30 meters, then stopped, turned around, and casually walked back to the human child, who was still picking flowers. The child looked at the honey badger, smiled, and said something else I could not translate. Then she reached into her basket and pulled out a small item. Food, probably. She offered it to the badger. The creature that had just routed 4 grizzly bears sat down, accepted the food delicately, and ate it. Then it resumed its position next to the child, who went back to humming and collecting flowers. I sat in my observation pod, all 3 of my eyes wide, my documentation tablet forgotten. "What?" I said to the empty room. "In the name of the Galactic Council's collective sanity, did I just witness?" The computer, unhelpfully, did not respond. I rewound the footage, watched it again, then again. Each time the same result. An 8-kilogram mammal had defeated 4 apex predators through sheer, unrelenting aggression. No venom, no specialized biological weapons, just teeth, claws, and what I could only describe as industrial-grade hatred. And it was protecting a human child. "Computer, pull all files on Melivora capensis. I want everything. Behavioral patterns, biological analysis, combat recordings, everything." The data streamed across my display. I read for 2 full standard hours, and with each passing minute, my confusion deepened. Honey badgers were omnivores. They ate everything from insects to small antelope. They raided beehives, hence the name, enduring thousands of stings to obtain honey. They fought venomous snakes. They attacked lions. They drove leopards away from kills. There were documented cases of honey badgers breaking into human settlements and stealing food, fighting off entire groups of domestic animals in the process. The Terran researchers who studied them used phrases like utterly fearless, pathologically aggressive, and zero regard for self-preservation. One researcher had written, "The honey badger appears to have examined the concept of appropriate threat assessment and decided it was for other, lesser creatures." Another noted, "If the honey badger were the size of a grizzly bear, it would rule the African continent unopposed, possibly the world." I believed them, but that did not explain why one was protecting a human child. I expanded my search, cross-referencing human settlement records with honey badger populations. Interesting, very interesting. Honey badgers were native to Africa, not North America. This specimen should not be here at all, unless... I pulled up the property records for the dwelling nearest to the child's current location. Owner, Marcus and Elena Winters. Occupation, wildlife rehabilitation specialists. They operated a licensed sanctuary for injured and orphaned animals. Ah, so the honey badger was technically a domestic animal? Or as domestic as a honey badger could be, which was probably not very domestic at all. I watched the live feed again. The child had finished, collecting flowers, and was now walking back toward the settlement. The honey badger walked beside her, matching her pace perfectly. When she stumbled over a root, the badger paused, waiting for her to regain her balance. When she stopped to examine an insect, the badger sat and waited. A guardian. That is what it was. A completely ridiculous 8-kilogram guardian that had just fought off 4 grizzly bears like they were minor inconveniences. I needed to file a report on this. The council would want to know. This kind of interspecies cooperation, especially involving a creature as aggressively antisocial as a honey badger, was significant. But as I started composing the report, movement on the scanner caught my attention. More heat signatures. Approaching from the western quadrant, I felt my respiratory tubes constrict again, Canis lupus, wolves, and there were 9 of them. "Oh, come on," I shouted at my display. "Is the entire planetary ecosystem trying to kill this child today?" The wolves moved in a tight pack, clearly experienced hunters. Alpha male in the lead, flanked by 2 large females. The rest followed in formation, maintaining optimal spacing for a coordinated attack. Professional, efficient, deadly. The human child was still 2 kilometers from her dwelling. The wolves were closing fast, perhaps drawn by the scent of blood from the injured bears. Or maybe they had been tracking the child all along. Either way, they would intercept in approximately 4 minutes. I checked the honey badger's position, still walking calmly beside the child, completely unaware of the approaching threat. "Computer, calculate probability of successful defense against 9 Canis lupus using previous combat data from the honey badger." The computer processed the request. Probability of survival, 12%. Probability of defending human child while surviving, 4%. "Fantastic," I muttered. "Just fantastic. I should maintain observer protocols. No interference. Let nature proceed as it would." But something made me hesitate. Maybe it was the way the child kept talking to the honey badger, complete trust in her voice. Maybe it was the way the small creature had fought with such absolute conviction to protect her. Maybe I had been alone in this observation pod for too long, and my judgment was compromised. Or maybe, just maybe, I was curious to see what would happen when an animal that should not exist in this ecosystem faced an opponent that actually hunted in coordinated packs. The wolves were 2 kilometers away. 1.8, 1.5. The honey badger's head came up. It had detected them. The child noticed the badger's change in posture and stopped walking. She looked around, confused, probably wondering what had upset her companion. The honey badger moved in front of her, positioning itself between the child and the approaching threat. Its body language changed completely. The casual, almost lazy movement vanished, replaced by coiled tension. 1 kilometer. I leaned closer to my display, forgetting to breathe. 800 meters. The alpha male broke from the trees, and the rest of the pack spread out immediately. They had done this before, many times. They knew exactly how to surround prey, how to cut off escape routes, how to attack from multiple angles simultaneously. 600 meters. The honey badger lowered its head. A sound came from its throat, picked up by my audio sensors. Low, rumbling, not quite a growl, not quite a hiss. Something in between, something that made my skin prickle despite 3 layers of environmental shielding. 400 meters. The child started to cry. She could see the wolves now, could understand the danger. She grabbed the honey badger's fur, not pulling, just holding, seeking comfort from the only protection she had. Protection that weighed 8 kilograms against 9 wolves, 200 meters. The honey badger made a decision. I saw it in the creature's body language, the way it shifted its weight, the way its muscles bunched. This was not going to be like the fight with the bears. The bears had been surprised, disorganized. The wolves were neither. This was going to be war. 100 meters. The alpha male howled. The pack responded in unison, their voices rising in a chorus of predatory intent. Then they charged, all 9 of them, a coordinated assault designed to overwhelm through sheer numbers. The honey badger charged to meet them, and I realized I had been completely wrong about what I was about to witness. This was not going to be a fight. This was going to be a massacre. The question was, whose? The alpha male hit the honey badger first, jaws open, going for a killing bite to the neck. Standard wolf tactic, quick, efficient, proven effective across thousands of years of evolution. The honey badger twisted mid-charge, an impossible lateral movement that should have violated several laws of physics. The wolf's jaws closed on empty air, and before the alpha could recover, the badger was on his back, claws raking deep furrows through thick fur. The alpha yelped, actually yelped, and tried to roll. The honey badger rode the movement like it was nothing, maintaining its grip, going for the vulnerable spots behind the ears. Then it released, dropped to the ground, and spun to face the second wave. 2 females came in low, attempting to hamstring the defender. Smart. If you cannot bite the head, cripple the legs. The honey badger saw them coming, waited until they committed to the attack, then jumped straight up. I am not exaggerating. The creature achieved vertical clearance of at least 1 full meter. The 2 wolves collided beneath it, crashing into each other in a tangle of confused limbs. The badger landed on top of them, bit the nearest one on the ear hard enough to draw blood, then launched itself at wolf number 4 before the others could regroup. This was not fighting. This was controlled chaos given physical form. Wolf number 4 tried to retreat, recognizing the threat too late. The honey badger caught its hind leg, bit down, and did not let go. The wolf dragged the badger several meters, yelping in pain and terror, before managing to shake free. It limped away quickly, blood trailing from the wound. 8 wolves left. The pack regrouped, circling now, more cautious. They had learned. This was not prey. This was something else entirely. Something that defied their understanding of how food chains worked. The honey badger stood its ground, positioning itself directly in front of the human child. The girl had stopped crying, watching with wide eyes as her 8-kilogram protector faced down 8 apex predators. The wolves tried a different approach. 3 broke left, 2 broke right, and 3 stayed center. Multi-directional assault. Divide the defender's attention. Force it to choose which direction to protect. The honey badger chose violence in all directions simultaneously. It met the center group first, going low, targeting ankles and tendons. Wolves scattered, yelping. Then it spun without pause and intercepted the left flank, moving so fast my sensors barely tracked the motion. The lead wolf in that group took claws to the face and immediately retreated. 7 functional wolves left. The right flank pressed their advantage, thinking the badger was occupied. Wrong. The creature somehow sensed them coming, disengaged from the left group, and met the right attackers head-on. 1 wolf got too close and received teeth in the sensitive nose area. It backed away, shaking its head, blood spraying. 6 wolves willing to continue this fight. "This is insane," I muttered, recording everything. "Absolutely insane." The alpha male tried again, using the distraction to circle around. He was targeting the child directly now, abandoning the attempt to kill the defender first. Pragmatic. If you cannot defeat the guardian, eliminate what it is guarding. Remove its purpose. The honey badger saw him. Of course it saw him. What happened next occurred so quickly that I had to slow down the footage to understand it. The badger released its current opponent, covered the distance to the alpha in 3 bounds, launched itself upward in a ballistic arc, and collided with the wolf's head with enough force to actually knock the larger animal sideways. They both hit the ground hard. The alpha was up first, size and mass giving him the advantage. He lunged, trying to use his weight to pin the smaller animal. The honey badger rolled, came up underneath, and went directly for the throat. Not the neck, the throat. The alpha male panicked. I saw it in his eyes, even through my sensors. He had hunted elk, deer, even the occasional moose. He had fought rival packs, defended territory, survived winters that killed weaker animals. But he had never encountered anything like this. He ran. The pack leader. The alpha. The strongest and most experienced hunter in the group. He ran. The remaining wolves watched their leader flee, and the pack cohesion shattered like glass. 2 more broke immediately, racing after their alpha. The others hesitated, torn between predatory instinct and self-preservation. The honey badger made the decision for them. It charged the nearest wolf, not to kill, but to drive away. The wolf got the message and retreated. Then the next one, then the next. Within 30 seconds, all 9 wolves were gone, scattered into the forest like leaves in a storm. The honey badger stood in the clearing, breathing hard, bleeding from several wounds I had not noticed during the fight. It swayed slightly, exhausted, running on fumes and pure, stubborn refusal to quit. The human child approached slowly. She reached out, touched the badger's head gently, said something soft, grateful. The honey badger accepted the contact for a moment, then turned and started walking again, back toward the settlement. The child followed, keeping pace, one small hand resting on the animal's back. I sat in my observation pod, 3 cycles of experience suddenly feeling completely inadequate. "Computer," I said quietly, "flag this footage for immediate council review. Priority classification, xenobiological anomaly." Classification accepted. Preparing transmission. I continued watching the feed as the child and her impossible guardian made their way home. They were 500 meters from the dwelling when I picked up another signature. "You have got to be joking. Puma concolor. A mountain lion. Male, large, easily 90 kilograms. Crouched in the rocks above the path, watching, waiting." I checked the honey badger's condition through thermal imaging. The creature was exhausted, running on empty. Multiple lacerations, possible muscle strain. It had given everything to fight off the bears and then the wolves. There was no way it could handle another fight. The mountain lion had the high ground, fresh energy, and ambush advantage. This was not going to be a fair fight. This was going to be an execution. I reached for my communications array. Protocols be damned. I was going to break radio silence, contact the settlement, warn them somehow. Then I saw movement from the dwelling. 2 adult humans emerged, running. They must have heard the wolves, realized their daughter was in danger. The male carried something metallic, a firearm, primitive chemical projectile weapon. The female had a communications device, probably calling for additional help. They were still 300 meters away. The mountain lion was 30 meters from the child. Launching position. The honey badger looked up, spotted the threat, and I swear on every world I have visited, that creature smiled. Not happiness, not joy. Anticipation. The mountain lion pounced, a perfect strike from elevation, using gravity and muscle to generate devastating impact force. The child screamed. The parents shouted. I stopped breathing entirely. The honey badger met the mountain lion in mid-air. The collision was spectacular. Both animals hit the ground in a furious tangle of claws and teeth and rage. The mountain lion had size, the honey badger had experience and a complete inability to understand when it was outmatched. They rolled together, kicking up dust, breaking apart, coming back together. The mountain lion got its jaws around the badger's shoulder. The badger ignored the pain and went for the lion's eyes. The lion released immediately, self-preservation overriding predatory drive. Blinding was permanent. Blinding was death. The parents arrived, the male raising his weapon, but he could not fire. The 2 animals were too close together, moving too fast. Any shot risked hitting the honey badger. The badger and the lion separated, circling each other, both bleeding, both exhausted, both absolutely committed to this fight. The mountain lion feinted left, then struck right. The honey badger saw through it, dodged the attack, countered with a rake across the lion's flank. The lion spun, tried to use its tail for balance, and the badger grabbed it. Actually grabbed the mountain lion's tail and bit down. The lion yowled, a sound of pure outrage, and tried to spin around to dislodge the attacker. The honey badger held on, got pulled into the spin, released at the optimal moment, and used the momentum to launch itself at the lion's face. They went down together again, rolling, fighting, refusing to quit. The male human was shouting something, trying to find an opening for a shot. The female had grabbed the child, pulling her back to safety. The honey badger found the lion's throat. Not a killing grip, not yet, but close. A promise, a warning. The mountain lion went still. I have seen this before, in predator interactions across multiple worlds. Submission, surrender, the acknowledgement that continuing the fight meant death. The honey badger held the position for 3 full seconds, making sure the message was clear. Then it released and stepped back. The mountain lion did not run. It stood, locked eyes with the small creature that had just defeated it, then turned and walked away with as much dignity as it could maintain, not fleeing, retreating. There was a difference. The honey badger watched until the lion disappeared into the rocks. Then its legs gave out. It collapsed, sides heaving, blood matting its fur. The human male rushed forward, scooped the animal up carefully, and ran back toward the dwelling. The female followed with the child, who was crying again, reaching for her protector. I tracked them all the way to the dwelling, watched as they carried the honey badger inside. Medical intervention would follow. The creature would survive. Probably. Possibly. Honey badgers were apparently very difficult to kill. I leaned back in my observation pod, my manipulator appendages trembling slightly. 3 separate engagements, 4 grizzly bears, 9 wolves, 1 mountain lion, 14 apex predators total, defeated by an 8-kilogram ball of concentrated fury and bad attitude. Computer, append to previous report. The species Mellivora capensis represents a significant xenobiological anomaly. Despite minimal mass and no specialized biological weapons, this organism demonstrates combat effectiveness far exceeding predicted parameters. Recommendation: any species encountering humans should be advised that they have domesticated creatures like this. Multiple creatures, possibly thousands. The computer beeped acknowledgement. I stared at the footage, watching the fight sequences again and again. Trying to understand, trying to rationalize what I had witnessed against everything I knew about predator-prey dynamics, about mass-to-strength ratios, about survival instincts. The honey badger should have run, should have abandoned the child and escaped, should have chosen self-preservation over a creature not even of its own species. But it had not. It had fought and fought and fought, until every threat was neutralized or driven away. Why? I pulled up more files on human-animal relationships, domestication, pack bonding, loyalty concepts. The data was fascinating and deeply disturbing. Humans had a tendency to form emotional attachments with other species. They kept animals in their dwellings, fed them, cared for them, treated them as family members. And the animals, impossibly, reciprocated. Dogs that died defending their human companions. Cats that alerted families to fires, horses that carried wounded riders to safety, birds that called for help when their humans were injured. Interspecies cooperation at levels that made no evolutionary sense. Except it did make sense, because humans had figured out something most species never learned. You did not need to be the biggest or the strongest or the fastest. You just needed allies, friends, family. Even if that family was an 8-kilogram psychopath with fur. I filed my report, flagged it urgent, and sat back to wait for the council's response. It came faster than I expected. Priority message, direct from the Xenobiological Assessment Committee. Observer Vekrin, your report has been reviewed. Please confirm, a single Mellivora capensis specimen successfully defended a juvenile human against 14 large predators over a span of approximately 30 standard minutes. Confirmed, I transmitted back. Full sensor data attached, multiple redundant recordings from different angles, no equipment malfunction, no data corruption. There was a pause. Longer than normal for committee communications. Observer Vekrin, please provide assessment. If humans are capable of forming loyalty bonds with creatures this disproportionately effective in combat, what are the implications for future contact scenarios? I thought about that. Really thought about it. Imagined first contact. Imagined a diplomatic delegation approaching a human settlement. Imagined those humans having companions, protectors, friends who would fight beyond reason, beyond logic, beyond any sensible assessment of odds. Committee, I transmitted slowly. My assessment is as follows. Humans do not need advanced weapons or superior technology or overwhelming numbers. They have somehow convinced some of the most dangerous creatures on their planet to love them. And those creatures will die before they let anything harm their humans. Another pause. Recommendation. I looked at my monitors, at the dwelling where the honey badger was probably receiving medical care, surrounded by humans who considered it family. At the child who trusted that small animal with her life. At the parents who had come running to save them both. Recommendation. When we finally make contact with humanity, we should be very, very polite. Because we will not just be dealing with humans, we will be dealing with everything they have befriended. And after watching today's events, I am not sure the galaxy is prepared for that. The committee's response took even longer this time. Recommendation accepted. Updating contact protocols accordingly. Continue observation. I signed off and returned to monitoring the settlement. The honey badger had survived, of course. Because honey badgers do not quit, do not surrender, do not acknowledge that they should be dead. 3 days later, I watched through my sensors as the child walked through the forest again. The honey badger walked beside her, moving a bit stiffly from healing wounds, but otherwise unconcerned. They picked flowers. They examined insects. They sat by a stream and shared food. No predators approached them. Word had spread, apparently, through whatever mysterious communication network animals used. The small creature with the human child was off limits. Untouchable, too dangerous, too crazy, too absolutely committed to violence for any sane predator to challenge. I filed supplementary reports daily, documented the bond between child and guardian, noted the way other animals gave them wide berth, recorded the gradual healing of the badger's wounds, which occurred faster than any medical model predicted. On the 7th day, I received new orders. Remain on station. Continue observation. Council was sending additional observers. They wanted multiple perspectives on this phenomenon. I agreed, because honestly, I was fascinated now. This was not boring duty anymore. This was watching something unprecedented. Something that challenged everything we thought we knew about interspecies dynamics. And maybe, just maybe, it was watching the future of galactic politics take shape, because if humans could form these kinds of bonds with their own planet's creatures, what would happen when they reached the stars? What alliances would they forge? What friendships would they build? Who would be crazy enough to threaten them then? I watched the child and her honey badger disappear into the forest, heading home. Safe, protected, loved. And I understood, finally, what made humans dangerous. Not their weapons, not their intelligence, not their numbers, their ability to turn the most unlikely creatures into family, into friends, into warriors who would fight beyond reason, beyond fear, beyond death itself. The galaxy had no idea what was coming, but I did, and it terrified me, in the best possible way.